morning. I'm Brenda Baxley with Sew Unique Sewing. This is our beginning sewing course, day one. Day one, we will be making this beautiful pocket pillow. This is from Lorelai's fabric line, Cowgirls. For this project, you are going to need 3 fat quarters. Okay, if you don't have fat quarters laying around, you have some scraps. The scraps need to be 3 pieces of at least 18 inches by 18 inches. For your first step in this project, you should take all 3 fat quarters and press. I know, none of us like to iron, so just look at it as smoothing fabric, okay? If you don't think of it as a chore, it might make you feel a little bit better, okay? Once all 3 of your fat quarters are pressed, you're gonna lay them out on your cutting board. For those of you who are using a rotary cutter, you are gonna line them up at ground zero over here on your left side if you are right-handed. If you are left-handed, you're gonna turn your board around. Your board will be opposite, and you're gonna start on the opposite side. So left-handed people, just do the opposite of what I'm doing. You're just gonna change it up from your left hand to your right hand, okay? So we're lining this up at ground zero on the left, and we're gonna take the bottom, we're gonna line it up on the line there at 1. So left side at 0 and the bottom line at 1, okay? And then we're gonna lay our ruler down here at 18. Line it up nice and straight. You're gonna hold this firmly with your left hand and then get your rotary cutter out and just whack that, okay? And that's scrap. All right, then we're gonna take that smooth line that we just cut and we're gonna turn it. And we're gonna make sure this is 18 as well. Line it up. Fat quarters are always just a little bit off. Whether your quilt shop cut them or they came from the manufacturer that way, Walmart, Joann's, all those, they're always just a little bit off. So you just want to trim off that little piece. So all 3 of your fat quarters should be 18 by 18. Okay, once you have your fat quarters all pressed and nice and pretty, and they're all cut 18 by 18, you are going to take your pocket piece, whatever's going to be your pocket, and you are going to fold this in half, matching the edges, wrong sides together. So your right side will be out, okay? And so you will have a piece that measures 18 by 9. Okay, now you're gonna take your pocket piece and you're gonna put the folded side up, and this is gonna go on the back side of your pillow, okay? My back side and front side are the same, so it really doesn't matter which piece I use, but it's very important that it goes on your back side of the pillow. If your pocket is directional, okay, which means, let's say you have ducks walking across here and your ducks' feet are down here and their heads are up here, you're gonna put this upside down, okay? At the end of this project, this pillow actually flips. So you want it opposite of the way that you needed to look. So whatever's on the inside is going to be what ends up as your pocket, okay? So once you have that laid out, you are gonna clip it or pin it. If you are using pins, again, remember the head goes out and you go down and then up, okay? Doesn't matter whether you use clips or pins. About every 4 fingers, depends on how big your hand is. That one just had a mind of its own. Looks like it's attached. And we're gonna clip this all the way around. Okay, now we're ready to go to sewing machine. Okay, now that we've got the clips and everything's all nice and secure in place, we are gonna attach the pocket to the back of your pillow. So again, when you start sewing, as we've talked in previous classes, it's very important to lock your stitch. So 3 to 5 stitches forward, 3 to 5 stitches back, and then sew on down. This seam is really just a practice seam, and I do this for beginners just to help them get the feel of the machine. A lot of people who come to my class, this is the first seam they've ever sewn, okay? So when they get down to the corner, you're gonna put your foot down, or your needle down, excuse me, your foot's already down. You're gonna lift your foot and then pivot the fabric. Put your foot back down and continue to sew. That one clip, this has a mind of its own. So this is just securing this pocket to the back of the pillow. And then in just a minute, when we secure the front of the pillow, we're gonna go right over the seam. Oh my goodness gracious. Okay. All right, as you can see, when I got here, I've got a little bit of a gap. We're not gonna worry about this because this is gonna be enclosed in the pillow, okay? Again, we're gonna put our needle down, foot up, and pivot. Foot back down as before we start to sew. So again, this is just a practice stitch to help you get a little comfortable. Those of you who've been sewing a while, once we get to the next step, you are gonna understand why it's a practice stitch, okay? So I just locked my stitch there, 3 stitches forward, 3 stitches back, all right? And then cut your threads, and now our pocket is attached. Okay, now that we've got our pocket attached to the back of the pillow, we are gonna attach the front, okay? So my fabric is non-directional, but if yours were to be directional, you wanna make sure that your fabric is going the same direction that it is on the back, okay? Again, with the ducks, if you've got ducks going across and your feet are down here and your head's up there, you wanna do that the same way with your front. So we are gonna put the front side to the back side, and they are gonna kiss, okay? All right, we call it right sides together. Right sides together. It's annoying little songs like this that help get things in your head, okay? So now at the bottom of this, we are gonna put 2 clips, or maybe you have a certain colored clip that you like to use, okay? This is my way to remind me that we are not sewing between here. Okay, so you're gonna put 2 clips and 2 clips, okay? This just means this is a no-sew zone, okay? And now we're gonna clip all the way around just like we do normally. All the way around, keeping in mind about 3 to 5 fingers wide. You wanna pin every so often. This just helps to secure it as you're pinning so your fabric doesn't jiggle around, doesn't move, it doesn't get off key, off kilter, as some people might say. One more pin right there. Okay, now we're ready to go to the sewing machine. All right, now we're gonna take it to the sewing machine. We're at the sewing machine, we're gonna start sewing. We're gonna pull out these 2 clips that we have. Again, this is the second set of 2 clips that tells us that this is our no sew zone, okay? So we're not gonna sew before those clips. We're gonna put our foot down and we're gonna begin sewing, and we're gonna start sewing a little bit and then back stitch 3 to 5 stitches and then come on forward, okay? Some people call that, went right out of my head what some people call that, securing the stitch. Other people call it, oh my goodness, I call it locking the stitch. It doesn't matter really what it's called, but you need to secure that stitch. Just like when you're hand sewing, you would tie a knot in your thread that will secure the stitch, or you would do a overcast stitch and pull that thread through there, and that also locks your stitch or secures your stitch, okay? So as you notice, just a few minutes ago, I went around that corner and, oh gosh, I put my needle down and pivoted the fabric. We're gonna do that again on every corner. So we're gonna put our needle down, lift our foot, and pivot the fabric, and continue sewing. Okay, we're gonna do that on every side until we get to our second set of double clips or double pins. The fabric I'm using today is Corey Yoder's Sugar Creek. I really messed up last video. I did was her strawberry jam. And all I could remember was strawberry. I was just focused on the strawberries, but this is Sugar Creek. Corey Yoder is a fabric designer for Moda Fabrics, and she lives in Berlin, Ohio. We're gonna put the needle down, lift the foot and pivot, and foot back down and continue. So she's a really sweet lady. I encourage you to check out her fabrics, Moda Fabric, or you can check her out. She is also on an Etsy store at Coriander Quilts. Super sweet lady. All right, so as we're sewing this, we are securing that pocket in there. We're gonna get to the last corner here, put our needle down, lift our foot and pivot. I'm gonna just lift that, move it over just a little bit. A little bit harder sewing standing up than it is sitting down. So I pulled out my 2 last clips, and so now I'm gonna reverse, secure that stitch, cut the threads, and then lift up, okay? Okay, now we have our pillow all enclosed together, and we're gonna turn this right side out. Just like you would a shirt or a pair of jeans, you know, as you pull them out of the dryer, if they're wrong side out, you're gonna turn it right side out. And as you're turning it out, you're gonna poke with your finger the corners, making sure they're nice and crisp. If you have a blunt edge scissors, you can poke a pair of scissors in there. Don't use a sharp edge scissors because it will poke right through your pillow. But make sure those corners are out. And then you can see that we have a shell of a pocket pillow. Now you want any kind of polyfill. This is also a great opportunity if you like to recycle or upcycle. To cut up an old bed pillow or an old couch pillow and use the stuffing from that. So as you're stuffing, you're going in that bottom hole, but stuff your corners first. So you're gonna get some stuffing right up there in those corners and up in this corner over here. And stuff the corners first before you stuff. Now that we have our pillows stuffed nice and firm, we're gonna make sure these corners up here are filled in. And then we're gonna turn these raw edges here inside, and we're gonna lay that nice and flat. And you're gonna use your pins or your clips and just secure that together. Once you have that nice and secure, we're gonna go to the machine. Now, if you filled this a little too firm, you may want to consider hand sewing that. I like to sew mine on the machine because after you flip that pillow, that pocket over, it hides the seam. So we've got our foot lined up with the right side of the fabric, and we're going to start just sewing before the hole, and we're going to lock our stitch there. You want to just be careful, hold that secure. Once you pull that pin out or that clip off, your fingers still need to be down there to hold that fabric together as it's feeding into the foot because it's a little bulky with the stuffing already there. Once you get to the past the hole, again 3 to 5 stitches forward and then 3 to 5 stitches back to lock that stitch. And I like to go forward again and then cut that thread. Lift your foot and pull it away. And you have a nice, great seam there. Okay, now that we have our pocket secured, we've got it stuffed, and we have it enclosed, we are gonna flip the pocket over. So now the pocket is leaving the back side of the pillow and going to the front side of the pillow. And then you just redistribute that stuffing. And now you have a beautiful pillow ready for gift giving or to put on your bed. Lots of people like to use this to keep their prayer journal in. Teenagers love them for their cell phones or their Kindles or their tablets to keep by the side of their bed. I just want to thank you so much for joining us on So Unique Sewing for our beginning sewing camp. We will be doing pillowcases tomorrow, and for tomorrow's project you will need 3/4 of a yard for your case and 1/4 of a yard for your cuff to make your pillowcase. So while you're out and about today, or in your stash, since we're not allowed to go out and about, go to your stash and see what you can find, and we'll get going tomorrow. Thank you so much for joining us. We look forward to seeing you on Tuesday.